going, Janna.
I was gonna do
Jeremy,
Kyoko impression for the mic check. Will that work? Kyoko?
I don't know if you should be doing that.
I don't think it sounds like that. I don't think you have it.
It needs to sound more crackling.
Do one. Then okay, Janna, you do one.
Oh, no, I'm bad at impressions.
Okay, Niles, do your impression.
I can't do it either.
Yeah, see?
My mouth is too moist. I got moist mouth.
All right. Hi. Hello. My name is Andy Triefenbach, and
I'm Niles Mattox.
I'm Janna. Nice to meet you.
And I am Jeremy Jones.
And today we are going to talk about the 90s J-horror boom. What we all, I think, consider this as really a lot of introduction into international cinema as well. But we want to talk about kind of a little bit of J-horror. We're going to set the stage a little bit and kind of give you a little bit of history. And then we're really going to dive pretty deep into Ring or Ringu and all the iterations, including far less seen version of the film, but we'll get into it. And then I think we're just going to kind of lead up to 1999 and see where we go from there. So thank you guys so much for joining us. We are the Destroy the Brain podcast, and we'll go ahead and get into it. Just to, if you haven't figured it out, it's three white dudes talking about J-horror. So some pronunciations might not be the best. That's why we have Janna, who is fluent in Japanese, to kind of back us up and say, no, you fucking idiot.
She will be doing
This is
real-time correction.
This is definitely a
It's a live podcast. It's going to be fun. It's going to be great.
St. Louis perspective of J-horror. There you go.
Gambarimasu.
Yes.
There you go.
See? There you go. All right. So I think what we want to get into is kind of like an intro into the folklore of the J-horror stuff. But what we kind of want to talk about is, and here's where Andy gets tested, Unreal.
Onryo. It's a vengeful ghost. So Onryo really came about in the 7th and 8th century in Japan, and there's 3 really big ones, but we're not going to get into that. But the inspiration for a lot of these movies is depicted from these vengeful ghosts. And there is a very famous iteration of these, and it is really the story of Oiwa, and it's known as Yotsuya Kaiden. And it was a 1825 kabuki play. And that's how it got started, but there's over 30 movie renditions they've done all these years, and that has been a huge inspiration for a lot of these directors, specifically Hideo Nakata, who did Ringu, and Takashi Shimizu, who did Ju-on, just to give some examples of that. But the difference between Onryo and other ghosts is they can really inflict harm among people. They can cause natural disasters, and there's a lot of things with these specific vengeful ghosts that a lot of traditions in Japan still really see, and it influences them.
Yeah, I mean it's an interesting thing because it's it starts with these folk tales, and by the time we get to the 90s, they're like, we're tired of the same folklore. Let's start something new and let's make it technophobia. That's basically what they end up doing.
Yes, in a sense. And there's also, you're right, at that point, they also had a comic creator, and I would say he also wrote a lot of novels, mainly children's ones, but he went around collecting ghost stories from children and wrote about them. And there's one, it was from 1990 to 1994. It was Toru Tsunematsu who did all those, but that also really came into play because, Oiwa's been done so many times. They needed new ghost stories to hit that new 90s generation, and this was it. And just, you can see how all these directors were extremely influenced by these.
Well, and I know you talked about some of the adaptations of Oiwa, right?
Oiwa.
Oiwa. Wait, say it one more time.
Oiwa.
Oiwa. I know we have Ghost of Yotsuya.
Yes.
And The Tale of Oiwa's Ghost, which is, the first one is actually playing right now. Just an old trailer of it. But, there's this introduction of J-horror where it's really adapting a lot of folklore stories, right? And I think what Reinu does, maybe subconsciously, or maybe not, whenever the 1998 adaptation comes out, because this is not the first adaptation of Ring. But in the 1998 one, I feel like that's where we get the Sadako kind of definition of what she looks like, and it's very much akin to Kabuki.
Yes.
Symbolism especially.
Right.
Yes, because so she wears white, and that is a symbolism of death in Japan. So like we perceive it as weddings. Over there, it's not. It's a symbol of death. Same with the number 4. Yon, it's Yon or she. She is one of the characters in Death, and that's another thing that you see displayed. The long black hair, that is from Oiwa, and like that's kind of when they depict a lot of wronged women. Is the long black hair, the traditional Japanese style with the white robes that they would be wearing in Death.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that like the original 91 book doesn't incorporate that at all. It is something that was added visually for the 98 film, just to like throw back those fear centers, I think, from earlier traditions, folklore, religious stuff.
And before we get into that, so I mean, the main topic is going to be 90s J-horror, which coincidentally I think always starts off with the burst of the Japan bubble in financial crisis in 1990. It was majorly catastrophic to their financial system because, unfortunately, like for 6 years prior, I believe, they just inflated real estate and land and a couple of other things. Like, it was bad. It was just these inflated prices, and people were like, well, I mean, I don't know if we can live in the city anymore. Or they would flee to the city because there was new condominiums built, and it's really just really high rises, and they're packed on each other. But then in 1990, the bubble bursts, and I think it's just really a depression that hits Japan.
The emperor died in 1989, and so that had been the same emperor since World War II. So it was finally a time where Japan was able to look at themselves in the mirror and decide what kind of people they had created. Most of them were salarymen at this time, and trying to struggle and live in the city, but it was almost impossible. I think they estimated that was like the actual palace there was the same value as like the state of California at the time of like 1989. So it just literally everything was topsy-turvy, and these stories all have that kind of background of almost like, especially like the character of Sudoku, like she's like basically an island girl who is haunting upper middle class girls and ruining their, like killing them all.
Because you look at where she came from.
Correct.
On Izu Oshima, the island of Izu, and it was the city of Oshima. And she was very poor. I mean, but you look at Tokyo and you see a lot of these people in the book. They're rich, they're privileged, they're in private schools, they're wearing fancy uniforms.
Western bedrooms.
Yes. And you look at the houses, like when you're looking at the movie or reading the book, you can see these people have wealth. And I mean, not to mention that, like with the salaryman aspect as well, is they talk about overwork, and that is a huge thing. And I can't remember the word offhand right now, but you can see that influence in the book where Asakawa, I mean, he's pretty much just working all the time. He never sees his family, never sees his wife and kid. And you get that sense. That was that time frame.
You want to talk about like trad roles? Oh my goodness. Yeah.
And also just because, I mean, they were also still with the emperor just passed in 89, and they were still in that older mindset. And that also sets the stage for the book, how women are perceived, how men are perceived. You see the relationship between Asakawa and his wife. You really get that feel for how Japanese economy is, and like people could really relate to that. And that's why this book really hit Japan in 1990 when it came out, is people were seeing this firsthand, and they're experiencing it. And so many people fled the city and would have to travel an hour for work. And they mentioned that, like Asakawa mentioned how long it takes them to do 3 different subways just to get home. And
well, that's how the book starts. I mean,
yes.
it's him literally traveling from his office to get home, and he's trying to decide if he can. It's a better affordability to take the subway
or a taxi.
Or a
like,
taxi,
is it time commuting, or do I save money? And that's I mean, the Japanese people really hit on that, because Tokyo is not as close together as you think it is.
And with the commute he's having, when he leaves for the day, his wife and baby are still asleep. By the time he comes home, they are also asleep, because he works long hours and takes usually the train home. Just coincidentally, in the book, he decides to take a taxi where he hears about a man dying the night before.
So, like, Ring comes out in June of 1991, right? And it makes a pretty big. I mean, it
does well. It doesn't do amazing.
Okay.
It's not gangbusters,
right? But it does moderate business, enough business to say, hey, maybe we should adapt this in some weird way. It seems like somebody understood that something was being said here, because even though what's funny is, like, most adaptations of the film, including the most popular one in the 1998, is vastly different from the book.
Yes.
And you just read the book, right?
Yes, I did. In June. I would say that I think the movies make really smart changes to all the characters.
I agree.
But it loses the cultural significance where author Koji Suzuki was actually a stay-at-home father. He was a writer, and he mainly wrote books about child rearing, which is interesting. Then he kind of fell into horror, and he, had a lot of he was portraying Japan as kind of this, like, dirty dystopia, almost like city. They talk about air quality throughout and how the filthy parts of it are.
It's very, from what I remember, it's descriptive on that.
And so his niece is one of the girls that dies, just like in the movie, but he doesn't know this. He barely knows her.
So that is the other thing. The main character, the protagonist, who is in the original novel a reporter, is male, not female, not Naomi Watts, not female from Renu.
Naomi Watts was in the Renu?
From the American,
Oh, yeah.
Depends, like, I don't know. Has everybody seen Renu, like the 1998 film? Okay, so that's what I'm saying. But how many people have seen The Ring, the American remake? Okay. Oh, okay.
But yeah, it did get optioned by Fuji TV and was made into a TV movie in 1995. About 8 days before there was Spiral came out, the sequel by Koji Suzuki. And Ring is a very literal adaptation.
Yeah.
It is very straightforward.
From 1995. From Fuji TV.
Yeah, the 1995 TV movie. But apparently it was very popular to people who were like, oh, it's based on a book and the sequel just came out? Like, holy shit. And that's when it became a bestseller. And that's when it really kicked up later, where it was just, it started with getting optioned by a production company for feature films, and both books were optioned at the same time. By Omega Productions, they went into production, shot simultaneously to be released on the same day.
And before we talk about Omega Productions, do we want to talk a little bit about the 1994, 95? I always forget the year on it. The Haunted School, because that's also where some of the crew kind of formed each other.
So this J-horror movement was basically a couple of guys who were it was Kyoshi Kurosawa was basically the mentor, even though he never really, outside of Pulse, made something
Sweet
like
Home.
this.
I mean, 88 Sweet Home, I'd consider that horror. So, but I feel like he didn't really get recognized for that until way later.
You just got checked, Jeremy.
Ooh,
that just
shit.
happened.
That's why Anna's here. She knows more than anybody.
Everybody.
By a wide margin.
This is the best day of her life.
But with like Gaku no Kaiden, like you're right, it had a lot of the front runners, and Kurosawa was one of the ones running it. But you look at all the people who were involved in it, and there are several of these. They were all TV movies, and they were released on a box set, which is a little hard to find. But you have Takeshi Shimizu, you have
Hideo Nakata, Hiroshi Takahashi.
Yes, Hiroshi Takahashi,
who is the screenwriter of Ring and Ring 2.
Yes, and if you look at everything he's done, you can tell he is the connection between a lot of these people, and he is the reason Takeshi Shimizu got his start in the industry. And it's actually also thanks to Kiyoshi Kurosawa on this, because they were featured in one of these Gaku no Kaiden ones, and it was specifically Gaku no Kaiden G. You can watch it on YouTube, but there's no subs, just FYI. You can watch the 2 Takeshi Shimizu shorts, which are 4 minutes, on one of the Blu-ray special features.
And this was like a young adult TV series.
It was a young
adaptation of these urban legend books that were being published at the time that were insanely popular. But they're also letting directors kind of do their own stories. Like Nakata does at least one short that is basically The Ring.
Yes.
And of course, Shinmizu would later do the Ju-on short films that would be turned into the TV movies.
Yes, and he had like the 2 segments where you first see the evolution of Kayako and Toshi. So it's really interesting to see this is where they all got their start, is this like teen TV show. And they all are 30, like each segment is about 30 minutes to give you an idea. So it's a nice little, tidbit into what they've done like beforehand.
Was it like a graphic Are You Afraid of the Dark, basically?
Yeah, it really is. It's kind of like Are You Afraid of the Dark, Goosebumps type of thing. Cool. I mean, they're not super scary, but they're very eerie. There were ones before that honestly I would consider the real groundwork by Norio Tsuruta, and that was Scary True Stories in 1990, 1991. Those were also adapted, but it's interesting to see like how these all came to be. And this is what the Gaku no Kaiden was, what really made, I feel like, these directors and helped push them. And Hiroshi Takahashi really saw like that and helped connect all those.
Yeah, I mean, that you actually just brought up something that I almost forgot to mention, which is the fact that not only are they in dire straits, but they're also becoming obsessed with the occult in Japan during this time, like obsessed. Like ESP, ghosts were also considered that kind of they mix their ghost stories with like also psychic phenomenon a lot. And it actually reminded me a lot of like how Stephen King thinks of psychic / ghost, like the Shining situation where everybody's got a little bit of the shine to them.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of these stories have both elements. Either it's somebody who's a psychic who has drawn something out of a cursed situation, or but it is interesting how they look at it all as one thing. It's ESP. It's just this magical stuff. And I think because they were so depressed at the time.
Yeah, the economy had a big influence on that.
Yeah.
Everything going on with the media and how it was all one-sided. They needed that.
Oh, yeah, that too. The newspapers.
Yeah.
That was like the whole point of having
biased.
a journalist as the main character in the book, was the fact that the newspapers at the time, there was like 5 major ones, and they all said the same thing every time they put a
Japanese
newspaper out.
propaganda.
Right.
It's what we're kind of going through right now, which
A
is
little
wonderful.
bit. Yeah, a little bit.
But what I will say with the Ring 1995 version being a little more faithful, right, is I feel like the communication that Sadako's mother is possibly psychic, and then the whole humiliation with the professor that brings her to essentially an audience of reporters, ends up killing a reporter, but we find out it's Sadako that does it. I think it's funny because like now, I know Stranger Things season 5 has ended, but I think it's a weird Japanese lens compared to like some of the Stephen King like parapsychology that he was fascinated with, like The Shop and stuff like Firestarter and whatnot. That fascination is also still there, kind of like you said, where Japan was just getting really into the occult, and this was like right at almost at the tail end, if not the tail end, of the Satanic Panic era.
Right,
here,
exactly.
Right? So I think that's always interesting, that comes into play with the narrative of Ring
Yeah.
in the novel and stuff too.
And
so.
I did want to mention onto that when you said like with the 95 Ring adaptation, and obviously you do see this later in like Ringu Birthday and Rasen, but Shizuka Yamamoto, who's Sadako's mother, and the doctor are actually based on real people.
Yeah.
And this really did happen. What you see depicted in that is where she was put on display to show her like ESP and clairvoyance. It failed. And the Shizuka Mifune is the real person that this happened to. She did commit suicide in 1911 because she was absolutely embarrassed and appalled. Like, she was in front of all these newspapers, and she... they couldn't really prove she was psychic. The doctor was Tomokichi Fukurai. And it's very interesting because Tomokichi was a actual, like... parapsychologist, what they would call back in the day, and he did all that experimentation and really thought he saw something in her, but kind of seeing that they're based off real people is extremely fascinating.
Don't
and
they
that is
borrow
that's
the same
actually
names or something like
It's
that?
similar.
So
No,
okay.
it is.
it's similar because Shizuka was the mother, but yeah, they use really similar names. But when
Okay.
you look at the background, like you can tell, and Koji Suzuki did say he did draw from those characters. Like he knew about them and what they did, and it was something back in the day that made newspapers. So it was very fascinating that they drew that and used that aspect of it.
With all that, Omega Productions, right? So they
Right.
come into the fold and they say, after the success of 1995's adaptation, which is the first adaptation of Ring, they decide, hey, I think there's money to be made because it was very popular.
Well, and his books were selling
And then the
pretty
book
well.
started going. Well, from what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, the book did moderate business, right? But then it got picked up, showed on Fuji TV, and then the book business picked up
Yeah.
even more.
Yeah.
And already, like, Omega's like, okay, here's what we're going to do, because 1995, like you said earlier, was the sequel, Spiral, or The Spiral, as it would later be adapted, which is also a weird, interesting story to talk about, which we'll get to in a moment. But that comes out in 1995 when, like, shortly, I think 2 weeks after this is aired, the book comes out.
Yeah.
It's insane. And the fact they just jumped on it. So they started work on it, and then it gets into 1997, and they're like, okay, here's what we're going to do. And what they actually plan on, even though most Western audiences, like, I didn't hear about The Ring probably until 2000, the 1998 Hideo Nakata film, right? And a lot of that, I think, was probably because of Fangoria magazine, right? And there was classified ads in the back where you could get, third
Bootlegs,
generation
yeah.
bootlegs of these movies. But at that time, even though it's on the edge of 1999, it's a change in the millennium, that was how we fucking saw shit, to be
Right.
quite honest, and
I mean,
especially
the first movie
importing.
I ever saw was Battle Royale, and it was definitely a boot. I'm not gonna lie.
I had a Korean
Yeah.
bootleg of it. It was a really nice bootleg. It had gold embossing. I think it's gone now.
So
Just like my memory.
the thing with Ringu and Spiral going into production at the same time, Ringu was directed by Hideo Nakata and written by Hiroshi Takahashi. Spiral was written and directed by George Ida, who co-wrote the 1995 made-for-TV movie, and he directly adapted the book, where Ringu is, they change Asakawa to a woman. They give her an older son. She is a divorced mother.
Scorpion's her ex-husband. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And then there's
It's true. It's true.
Wait, so is it 97 when Loop comes out, the third of the series? Or was that later?
No, that's 98.
98. Okay.
Yeah. So this is still just production of that. So even though there's some shared cast between the two films, they are and being made at the same time. It's almost like what the MCU does, where they don't talk to one another, and they are two different kind of beasts.
Two different. It forks off, right?
They're different
and
timelines.
Takahashi, they had done a movie called Don't Look Up in 1996, which was basically the template for what Ringu would be. The other thing I think they did for Ringu, which was smart, is they changed Sadako to a little girl. She's maybe 12 or 13 in the novel. She is a 30-year-old intersex woman, as revealed towards the end. That is tasteless at the time. It's not handled horribly, but it's also just not handled well.
Which I will say,
for
the
early
1995 does faithfully adapt.
Yes,
Yeah,
it
they
does
do add
include
that in
that.
And that's the last time it does get faithfully adapted.
Yeah.
Which is probably for the best, to be quite honest. With the release of Rain and Spiral, they actually came out at the same time
Right.
in Japan. So
They were a double feature in a lot of places.
because at that point, it's like prime marketing. The book's out on the shelves. They can read it, and now they
And
can
the
see that.
third novel, Loop, had just come out in January. January for the Ring franchise just becomes like the banner month. I don't know why. I don't know if that was intentional, but starting in 1998, there's something happening every January with this franchise. Loop is an oddity because it is a alternate reality tale. Is that right? So that has not been truly adapted
Nope,
in any
that's
film
the-
because it is
That's the only novel that
beyond
hasn't been
me.
adapted.
Yeah.
Didn't they
There's a
use
video ga-
aspects of Loop?
There's a video
in-
game. No, because there's
I
the
mean,
short story
Spiral
that comes
bombed.
out
Why
for
would they continue
2000.
with that story? That's the thing.
Yeah.
It's
I
funny.
mean,
they
they
just
did-
gave up on the book series.
So
They
everybody,
did continue with it.
Oh, did they?
They did.
Oh, and the
later
recent-
on.
oh,
So
the
with-
3Ds and shit.
Yes.
Okay.
So Rasen, aka Spiral, was
Yeah.
continued later, but with Sadako 3D and Sadako 3D
Right.
2, that's the only ones in that timeline.
Ringu
Just to give
did
you an idea.
gangbusters. It was grossing more in Hong Kong than The Matrix was.
And,
when
and
it was
honestly, it's because
released
of the
there.
changes. I'll be honest. It's a horror movie. It's
Yes.
not a drama
Where-
mystery.
The Ring is the novel is quite a bit of a detective story, and that's continued in Spiral, and that is what Georgita adapted. And people were no, we want the scary shit in Ringu. We don't want whatever this is. And they decided, the producer
Ichinose.
Ichinose, who was the producer for Ringu and Spiral, and basically went on to is just a uber producer for J-horror and kind of in a way the unknown face of it in terms of movies he produced and put out and still produces. He says, guess what? We're making a sequel with the two guys that made the good movie, Go. And so in 1998, after that, they filmed Ringu 2. And then in January of 99, that came out. So a year later, almost to the day, they're like, okay, here's the real sequel.
Yeah, so Spiral doesn't do well at the box office, and what's interesting is it kind of just gets dropped off, and Hideo Nakata is brought back to basically say, hey, can you make a sequel to your movie? We don't care what you do. And you kind of get The Ring meets Exorcist II, The Heretic. It is more lenient on the ESP and telepathy and all this other stuff. I'll be honest, the first time I remember seeing it in like maybe 2005, 2006.
Yeah.
I didn't
That's when it
think
came
was
out in
great.
the States was 2005.
Okay.
the
I was
remake.
like, yeah, it's fine. It's definitely better than The Ring 2, the American sequel that unfortunately Nakata directed. But I will say, like, Ring 2, I think is really, really pretty good.
It's not bad.
It's almost kind of like a bad shit sequel, but it doesn't quite go to those strengths.
I hadn't seen it until last week, and I was like, wait, is this part of an Exorcist 2 homage? And like, not mad about it. I was kind of impressed.
Yeah, so I mean, I think if you're looking for a triple feature at home, just watch like Rainu 2, Exorcist 2, and then the documentary on John Borman doing
Yeah.
Exorcist 2.
Actually, there is another adaptation that comes out in 1999. Ring: The Final Chapter premieres on Fuji TV before Ring 2 comes out in theaters, and it is a very loose adaptation of the first book, and does so well they do a second season immediately that comes out that July. I believe it's like 13 or
I think it's 12 episodes.
12 or 13 like 1 hour episodes.
Yeah.
And then in the summer of 1999, it is really when Ring moves outside of Asia.
Because also at this point, right, like Ringu fever is abound in Japan. Like people are eating this shit up. And
we're not even bringing up the mangas that were coming out, the radio dramas, stage plays. Like
they actually finally do a kabuki version of the Ring.
I'm really trying to think of anything close to this in America where it was just that much of the zeitgeist.
No, I mean
the most recent
Death
It.
Becomes Her.
I couldn't get away from that shit.
But yeah, I mean, for whatever reason, like this story just strikes really hard. And I think a lot of it is the kind of technological aspect of it. And I feel like if you've never seen Ringu, I hope you are seeing it here at the festival. And if not, you need to go home and watch it because what I will say is like I am a fan of Ringu and I am a fan of the Ring, the American version, which is one of the weird first times where I got to see the original before the remake.
Fucking how? Bootleg?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I couldn't take it anymore. And then in 2001, I think Fangoria actually had the cover of Sadako.
They had the the eye cover.
Oh, okay.
But no, I mean, I think at that point there was just kind of curiosity from the Western audiences of like, what the hell is happening? Like, this is being constantly talked about. And like, at that point, you know, I mean, Scream came out in 96, right? So at the end of the 90s, we were
watching The Faculty at the time where all this is going on. It's the
not saying I definitely don't want to miss 1999 American cinema at that time because we do have some amazing films of that year.
True.
Yeah.
And especially like I know you mentioned The Matrix, right? And how that, you know, the Ring, whatever Ring was out.
The first one was outgrossing it, yeah.
It was, but that was the first one, and it's like not even a fresh film, right? It was
insane. Then like.
Oh, okay. I thought it was out for a few months before The Matrix came out.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. It had legs. It was obsession basically for Japan.
If you're of a certain age, you might not realize movies would be in theaters for like 3 to 4 months, if not longer.
Remember that?
Yeah. Well, it's back apparently. 1999 goes on to be an even bigger year for The Ring. Starting in June 7th, Ring Virus is the South Korean remake of Ringu because at the time South Korea had a ban on Japanese imports. So they just adapted the book and put it out. But I guess they lifted the ban while it was in production and they're like, we're too deep in the hole. We just got to make this movie. And knew if they put out Ringu, it would have probably lost money on their product. Haven't seen that. I don't know how widely available that is these days.
It's not available.
Okay.
It's not one you can find streaming easily. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
What was the film festival? Wasn't there a film festival?
Yeah, so we're getting there. So then July 1st, the sequel series Raisin, which is Spiral Rosin. See? That's why kid. Yeah.
She's earning our keep.
This is great. Rosin premieres on Fuji TV. And then in July 23rd was Fantasia Film Festival that year, which is a genre film festival, correct? Where Ring and Ring 2 premiered. It was the North American debut of Ringu and the international debut of Ring 2. And did pretty well, but it was really in 1999. It doesn't get a lot. September of that year, the Vancouver International Film Festival, they did a Japanese block where Nakata and Miike came, but it was the world premiere of Audition, which was the same production company as Ringu and Ring 2. And those two films, it was also Shikoku and Gemini, two films that are maybe get grouped into three films that really get grouped into the J-horror aspect that are not emblematic of the genre, but they get lumped in with it.
I think Shikoku can easily fit into that because it does deal with, of course, like the Onryo type of thing. And it's a lot of Shinto aspects. So the main religion of Japan is Shinto, and this has so much of that in there. And if you're not familiar with the religion, the good thing about this movie is you do learn about it, especially because of the island of Shikoku. It really does explain its meanings. And it's a really good ghost story, but it's kind of like one of those teen drama ghost stories.
Yeah.
Niles said it best earlier when he said like teen drama, and I'm like, yeah.
A love
does
triangle
fit
with a
that.
ghost.
But it has the ghost J-horror elements because, of course, you have the white robe, you have the long black hair, and you get that feel. But with like Gemini and Audition, they don't fit into that J-horror genre, such as like Ringu and G1 and all. But they're such fantastic films, and I mean, I love Mike.
Yeah, and you know, I'm guessing most people are familiar with Audition, which we won't go a ton into. It is, I believe, tickets are still available for tomorrow night's screening next door. It's closing night. Gemini is a Shinya Tsukamoto film who had started with Tetsuo the Iron Man, still working. This was after Bullet Ballet and Tokyo Fist, and was an adaptation. Rampa was was like the.
So it's the Japanese
Adwa
weird pronunciation of Edgar Allan Poe, which was it's
Eru go aru aren po.
yeah.
Edu
So
go
Wait, so it is
so
Poe?
when spoken in their natural tongue and not a fucking hick like me, it sounds like Edgar Allan Poe.
Gemini thinks I hadn't seen till doing research for this. It's a pretty exceptional film. It is about what's the time period of it?
This was Edo.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was, it was
During the
Edo.
play.
It was
It
Edo,
is.
but it was in the Meiji period.
Doctor and his fiance, who his family basically starts dying around him, and it turns out he has, this is not a spoiler like by any means, I think, but he has a twin brother that he never knew of that is taking his life over from him. And it is
It's a very
exceptional.
twisted
It is,
movie.
I think,
Honestly, it's the way it's shot. I
oddly-
watched it blind, like you did.
Yeah, yeah.
And I didn't actually know who the director was. I just randomly clicked on whatever.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then I was like, oh, this is like acoustic Tetsuo. It feels like...
So it feels like a period
Because it's
piece.
set in a period.
Yeah, it's
but
a period
it's also like
piece.
very punk rock how it's shot. Like,
But
it's
there's
like fast
so
movements.
dualities at play.
Yeah.
Doppelgangers are at play, and essentially there's kind of this through line where we're getting the other story, where it's like the other world, and that other world definitely feels like it's cut from the same cloth of Tetsuo the Iron Man.
Absolutely.
It's chaotic, wide lenses, everything. I think that camera does not stay still.
Yeah.
To be quite honest.
But everything that is with the proper brother, if you will, is, you know, framed tightly until it is when this other element comes in that the camera work does become more kinetic and more of the classic style of Tsukamoto. Really impressive. I believe Mondo Macabro put it out on
Yeah,
Blu-ray.
Mondo Macabro put it out on Blu-ray. I heard a rumor that somebody might be putting out possibly a 4K, but
Drop the scoop.
I don't
Drop the
have the
scoop.
scoop.
Somebody's whispering in your ear telling you
No,
things?
there's a lot of Mondo Macabro titles that unfortunately or fortunately
Tell us your
have
secrets.
gone to other companies. Quite honestly, Mondo Macabro is a great resource. If you're not familiar with that company, they put out Ali Carta, which unfortunately they can only do DVD because all the film elements are fucked beyond recognition. But they are a great company that put out Gemini, and I think you could pick it up for like under $20. But it is, if you're only familiar with that director from Tetsuo the Iron Man, I think you're going to have your wig blown off from this, because it really shows you like, oh shit, this guy can direct a different style. It doesn't have to be all chaotic. Of course that's in there. And when it does get cut in, you're like, oh shit, okay, this feels familiar. But if you've never seen Tetsuo the Iron Man, I don't know if a period piece would be the most palatable, but I think it's probably the less aggressive.
Are you? I was gonna say, you're saying Tetsuo is more palatable? For
No.
someone who's never
I'm saying
seen it?
Gemini. Gemini might be more palatable, but it's also a
Absolutely.
really
That movie
fucked
makes
up
my
movie.
teeth hurt. I don't know why. I feel like...
The movie makes me feel like when I go to the dentist sometimes.
But yeah, so Gemini comes out in 1999. I know it played at Venice, and it did moderately.
Yeah,
well.
yeah. But the Vancouver International Film Festival, I don't know what the reach was of that. Getting audition seemed like kind of a big thing, but it didn't make a ton of noise out of it. It really was until January of 2000 at the Rotterdam International Film Festival. They did a program block called No Cherry Blossoms. That was a look at modern Japanese film from genre to drama to
That's a good
shorts.
title. I like that one.
No more cherry blossoms.
There was probably 15 to 20 like short films. There's I don't know how many feature length. I was mainly looking at like ones I was familiar with.
Yeah.
But there Ringu played again, Audition played, and that's where Audition got the international notice. Same with Ringu. Shikoku was also programmed, and Gemini. Other films that played were Tomi, which is a
Tomie.
very yes.
That's the first time I've ever heard anyone pronounce that E. I had no idea, girl.
I have never heard anyone say that.
It's supposed to be pronounced Tomie.
Head in a bag.
Which is based on the
Junji Ito manga.
Junji Ito manga, yeah.
If you haven't read that, it's very, his art is extremely detailed and beautiful. I actually like the adaptation. I mean,
It's his best. It's way better than Uzumaki. For
yes.
sure. Right?
Oh, no, I agree. Like, I actually like the adaptation. It might not adapt the whole thing, because what Tomie is, the manga is a whole bunch of different stories about a girl named Tomie who just keeps getting murdered over and over and keeps coming back to life.
As you do.
And the movie really just focuses on that one, instance, and I actually think it's the director's best film. It's Ataru Oikawa. No offense, he does not do good movies, but this one was actually good. And I like the slow pace. I like the music. I feel like it's very well done. And I also feel like it's a movie that doesn't get recognized as much and kind of gets pushed under the rug.
Well, what also surprised me is I knew there were a couple sequels, but there's 9 films total in this franchise.
Yeah, there's a ton, and most of them aren't worth watching.
And I think the first one I saw, because the first film was, I don't know when it came to America, but the beginning was directed by Takashi Shinmizu, which I think is the 3rd film in the franchise. Or 4th?
Oh, I can't remember
Shinmizu
which
did
one.
an
He did the
entry,
one.
and I caught that at the video store and had seen, Ju-On, The Grudge, and picked that up. But this was my first time watching it. I thought it was very effective, very haunting. It is this schoolgirl who basically people are attracted to her and then are compelled to kill her, but then she keeps coming back. Loved the
Pretty
film.
fucked up.
Yeah.
it's pretty fucked up.
Yeah. Other films, Takashi Miike's Dead or Alive also played at Rotterdam.
Oh, the other thing I wanted to mention, the production company from Audition.
Oh, that was Omega Productions, because based on the success of Ringu, they're like, oh, this guy just put out a book. Let's option it.
Yeah, because Audition is also another adaptation, right? But I think it's interesting at that point in time in 1999, because for me, like I said, the early 2000s was when I really got into international horror, and that first dipping toe was probably Japan. Granted, I had seen Suspiria through like that Anchor Bay set, but that was also relatively around that time in the 2000s.
Yeah, it was the same time for me, I would say.
There was something about the early 2000s. If you were a male of a certain age, you were watching giallo and Japanese films. I don't know.
I mean, that's
what,
it.
I mean,
That's
it was
your-
Anchor
that's
Bay.
Friday
Yeah.
night with Pizza Hut, right?
Yeah.
Right, guys?
Pizza
Right?
Hut. I mean,
Making it great.
Okay.
somewhere
All right.
closer. That was also, I don't know if it was the world premiere, but Princess Mononoke played at Rotterdam. So this festival was the one. And then 2 of Kiyoshi Kurosawa's films, they were his non-horror titles played, but it was I feel like the introduction of Japanese cinema. And speaking of how being introduced to Japanese cinema, it's like mine was Battle Royale in 2002. It was a imported DVD from a friend in film class who had downloaded Region Kill to his PC, which would make any disc readable.
That's awesome.
And I was like, what year are you living in? What the fuck? Like, you imported a DVD? How? Like, it was not a Canadian one? Like, what? How did you do it? Like, had no idea.
Well, that was, I think, with 1999 and the early aughts, right? So let's lead up to 2001, DreamWorks, not doing very well.
Yeah.
The Mexican already came out at this point, right?
I don't know, Jess.
No, I think it came out later in 2001. And the Mexican, well, the reason why I bring it up is it's directed by Gore Verbinski, who would direct.
He went from Mouse Hunt to the Mexican?
Pretty sure.
Okay, I trust you.
Because that was the thing. It's like
speak ill of Mouse Hunt.
The way DreamWorks, I know.
I'm saying it's a down step. That's all. It's a
DreamWorks
misfire.
is still a company today, but the way they came on the scene
for
was
only
like,
one reason.
You know, the SKG, who that means.
Yeah.
That's Katzenberg, it's Spielberg, it's Geffen. Like, that's a powerhouse of media, right? So they thought they were just going to lead out of the gate. And, yeah, they didn't start off strong with their Pixar answer of animation. And then the Mexican just didn't take off, even though you have, like, Brad Pitt and Julia Roberts.
I mean, didn't they do Shrek?
2000, it's coming up.
2000, is that 2001 or 2002?
Somebody's going to have to check.
Oh.
2001, I think.
I know.
That's my wife.
That's what I'm
We
saying.
got a bunch
Like,
of nerds in here.
look,
We don't need to check.
January 31st, 2001 is when DreamWorks pays $1 million for the rights to Renew, and they're like,
They
you know
beat out
what? We're
Disney,
we're gonna catch on the fire and fucking adapt this for America. And what I will say is, you know, like, yes, I did see the original Renew, very crappy version,
I did too.
which, quite honestly, I think added to the element. But then I got to see The Ring and knowing the source material, and I was like, okay, let's see how this is. And it was pretty much a shot-for-shot remake. So recently, I finally got to see the 1995 Ring because Janna brought it to our attention. And I'm like, oh, that would be a really cool angle. And that's, like I said, completely different. So it's really interesting. Like, Hideo Nakata's imagery is still in Gore Verbinski's film, even though I think, like, visually he does carry that film on his own. But he adapts a lot and pays, I think, homage, like the mirror sequence and stuff like that.
I would like to rewatch it. So, again, this was the Ring remake had legs. It came out in October of 2002. Thanksgiving break, a bunch of people came home from college, and they're like, have you seen The Ring? And I go, no. And they're like, you watch every scary movie. How come you haven't seen The Ring? It's the scariest movie I've ever seen. And then I went and saw it and was like, that. It was fine. And so much I disliked it when I came home. My parents left their TV on in their bedroom. Home Alone, Black House, and it was the blue screen because the VCR was still on.
Yes.
And I saw that. I went, oh, no. Like, I was...
By yourself?
Yeah, I was just
Okay.
like... I was fine because I did not care for The Ring, but that's because it was overhyped for me.
I also feel the same. So for me, I was at the time doing promotion work for random shit, and one of the things I got access to was they were promoting The Ring here, and so I got little tapes of the footage that they watched in the film to pass out and show up to Street Side Records and put a stack at. And I remember seeing it and being, just by the video itself, being very disturbed by it.
Yeah.
And then my friend Mike at the time, he was like, oh, you got to watch the original movie. And I watched the same probably bootleg shit you saw. And it terrified me. And then I saw the film and I was like, okay, so they just took the same film and then
but there's
made
a
it
green
look like
filter
13,
over it.
There's 13 ghosts added to it,
Look,
basically.
I'll be honest. Like, I really still think that is a strong film.
I do.
think Brian Cox is good. I think the score is great. I do not think it's a slouch in any way, shape, or form, unlike like One Missed Call or something. But, you know, I think what's interesting about this change into the new millennium is not only did Renew kind of usher and blast open the door for international cinema to be digested by a lot of Western audiences, because
absolutely,
you know, I think that's when it really just kind of started hitting, and like people are like, oh, and now we have the accessibility of Blu-ray, or not Blu-ray, DVD at that point in time, and now people are like, oh yeah, you can region hack your Blu-ray or your DVD player. Sorry, I keep saying Blu-ray. I gotta remember we're in the early 2000s, but that would happen. And I was one of those people that bought like a specific DVD player, like a Samsung, that I could do a remote.
Oh, you don't seem like the type.
Do Region Zero, and I could do whatever I wanted. It was nice. I could play VCDs. There was a point in time, much like the flipper discs or 2 VHS tapes for one movie, like Dr. Zhivago or whatever.
Yeah.
There were VCDs, which only held like 700 megabytes of data, and you would have to split up the movie. Like, here's part 1 of the movie, and then put in the other VCD, and you can have part 2. But it's interesting because, like, technology was obviously evolving at that point in time, right? And I think at that point in time, with technology evolving, we were getting more access to some of these films. And I think even going back and being like, okay, well, what did Japan have before? Like, Cure is a really fucking great film that I highly recommend everybody check out. Maybe even do a double feature with Seven.
Dark Water.
Yeah,
I mean, there's
Dark Water.
Well,
That's
Dark
one of
Water
my
was
favorites.
2002.
Which is also Suzuki's novel and adapted by Nakata.
Yes.
But as it would go on, we would find more wild films in the 2000s. So before we close it out, I think it would be fun to either talk about your first foreign film, like J-horror film or whatever, international. But yeah, let's try to stay to Japan.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
What was your first one that you were blown away by?
Oh boy. I would say Versus in 2002, which maybe was not the classic J-horror style. It is this action zombie movie where people are reincarnating across different time periods. It's very funny. It's shot in the woods, like very low budget, insanely gory. I bought it at the Suncoast in Columbia, Missouri, and I had to park so far away from the dorm because of that. I had to like take the bus to get to the lot my car was on.
Oh my God.
And like basically it was like a 30-minute ride, and I was watching that in my dorm while my roommate was moving into a fraternity. So like obviously wrong guy to watch it. I was like, I don't care. Like, this is for me. It was that.
Sounds magical.
Seeing Ju-on the Grudge played at the Tivoli in 2004, and that scared the fuck out of me.
I remember importing, it was a Thai import, and it has a lenticular, I still have it, a lenticular cover with the hands.
Of course you still
that,
have
like,
it.
cut out. It's really cool looking. I'll post it on our Discord.
And I'll do one more that I blind bought a bit later in the cycle, probably 2006. It was Takashi Shinmizu's Marabito, which he shot in between Ju-on the Grudge and the Grudge remake in about 6 days on digital video, with Shinya Tsukamoto starring as this photographer who is photographing people who are scared, and he wants to feel that same sort of fear himself, and he finds himself in this kind of like other world, but you don't know if he's really like there. It's almost this Lovecraftian. I think they even say like he's at the Mountains of Madness or the base of them, and brings this creature home. But it's like, is it a creature? Is it a woman? Is he hallucinating it? That one blew me away.
Yeah, I just want to make a call out because Tartan Extreme helped a lot of those films kind of come over.
But Tartan didn't start in the U.S. I want to do an episode just about the American home video of it, because Lionsgate was huge in it. They did so much, but Tartan did, but they came really late to America.
They did. Janna, what about you?
So probably one of the biggest impacts for me was Dark Water.
Okay.
And I remember buying that at Barnes & Noble, and this had to have been high school. And when I watched that, like, it terrified me, but it also hit on that emotional aspect because there's so many things going on in that film. It's pretty much about a recently divorced mom who moves into an apartment complex with her daughter and notices water leaking. And it turns into like a ghost story. And it's also kind of like a very sad, bleak movie. And, you know, at the time...
Aren't they all, though?
They are. You're not wrong. Most of the Japanese movies and dramas are very, very bleak.
It's like, I just want to take a nap and be depressed.
There's no happy endings. And this does not have a happy ending. But, like, I still love how it's shot. I love how it really encapsulates what's going on and what this mom is going through, because that is something that is... They do a very good job at depicting it. And so that one, huge influence for me. The other one I think is less well known, and it's not the best movie, but I personally love it. It's called Yoden, and the English title is Premonition. And it's pretty much about a haunted newspaper. Came out in 2004, directed by Norio Tsuruta, who did Scary True Stories. But this guy pretty much sees this newspaper clipping and sees his daughter is going to be killed in a car crash. Turns around and it happens. And the interesting thing is it ties into Ringu because for a couple reasons. One, Hiroshi Takahashi, one of the producers, but also because the clairvoyant is based on a real person. Like that they did base it off some real events. And Chifune was one of the real people they based it on. So it's a very fascinating film. Like, I also love Noriko Sakai. I think she does a great job, like being this grieving mom going through this. You really feel the emotions. Like, I like how they don't, there's a lot of things you don't see of the terror that goes on. And it's really on their faces, like their expressions. And you weave through that story. It's not all horror, some of it's detective, but like that's one that always stuck with me. And I bought that at Vintage Vinyl back in, this had to have been like late high school, early college. I remember coming across it really cheap and was so excited to find a J-horror movie there.
Niles, I know you mentioned Battle Royale.
Yeah, I would say, honestly, it was Battle Royale for me. It was...
Same for me.
It had...
Coincidentally enough, we're wearing the same shirt.
It had such a backstory to it because I was told at the time I was watching something that was so taboo. I mean, it was filmed around the same time as Columbine.
Well, right. A lot of it was because it was banned, and it's like, well, holy shit, a movie's got that
killing
much
each
power.
other. It's like, oh, this will never come over here. I'm watching something, whatever. But then, honestly, I really enjoyed once all the movies started getting... I was working at Blockbuster at the time. I remember when all the movies started showing up, Ju-on and Ringu, and, like, we had a whole shelf of them underneath, like, the Ring, right?
Yeah.
You'd have, like, your whole shelf of Ring.
Start here.
Yeah, start here. And I just remember the joy of, like, showing others those films and being like, I know it has subtitles, but it's going to scare the shit out of you. I swear to God. Like... And it did. Ju-on scared the crap out of people, and Ringu scared the crap out of people. So I was happy.
Does have a really great scare.
Yes.
And I will say, like, the American Rain, when she comes out of the TV, not even a fucking candle to the original, for sure.
No.
But yeah, Battle Royale for me was just this kind of amazing film, and then I remember getting the book, and I imported it like twice. All this crazy stuff. And what was cool about it is, as much as people want to rip on Tarantino, the fact that he, when I imported Kill Bill Volume 1, that's when I found out he dedicated that film, at least Volume 1, to Kinji Fukasaku, which now everybody knows because of the whole Bloody Affair coming out. That's how it starts. That's how it was supposed to start. But like going through his back catalog and also just selfishly being able to show Battles Without Honor and Humanity at All Day Grindhouse 5, I was just really happy to do it because there's a lot of cinema out there, Japan, international cinema, that people just kind of need to venture and I think explore, because there's a lot of stuff that isn't getting the restoration or the revival that it
and just doing this research for this event, I watched at least 4 or 5 new movies that I didn't even know existed.
Yeah. So for this podcast, we will have all the films that we mentioned on our letterbox when this podcast episode is released, which should be in a couple of weeks, promise, because it's recorded. You saw us happen. So it will come out, and we'll have that list out, and then the next podcast episode will be our Hallmark Releasing Corporation, which will be a video podcast. So also, August 29th, we are doing Evil Speak for Late Night Grindhouse, if you didn't hear. And in a couple weeks, we'll be on this very stage.
We're right back here for Horror Trivia, July 23rd, 7:30 p.m.
That was a good radio voice there.
Was it? Yeah.
You're welcome.
All right. Thank you, guys. Hope everybody's enjoying all the movies and Hysteria Fest in general. And thank you guys for joining us for this discussion. All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.